How hard is Kerbal Space Program's hardest mod by martincitopants?
Hello again. Here's a question. How hard is Kerbal Space Program's hardest mod, Realistic Progression 1? Well, this mod turns KSP from a silly but surprisingly deep space game with tiny planets and funny green guys into the most hardcore, insanely difficult space agency management game in existence. And I am going to stream it on both YouTube and Twitch every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at these times until I beat it.
Okay.
But how do you beat it? Well, this mod starts us off on Earth in the year 1951. The Soviets and the Americans have begun the space race, and in 18 years, on the 20th of July 1969, the Americans will win the space race by landing a man on the moon.
I actually really like this. This is actually why I enjoyed Metal Gear Solid, why I enjoyed Metal Gear Solid Delta, because it very much plays into the Cold War, East versus West. I thought it was really interesting, and I like seeing that modders can do this, which makes me really sad that modders are kind of looked down to upon by especially the AAA, quadruple A gaming industry, because stuff like this is so cool, and it clearly meets a need that just isn't getting met. But at the same time as well, right? You know, everyone wants a hardcore, full loot, realistic MMO experience, but the actual people who play a hardcore, realistic MMO experience aren't necessarily the largest group of people, right? And that's why you'll see backtracking and why you'll see, the game being made more approachable. But I feel like this specifically is where modding and additional optional DLC come into play, because it clearly is scratching a need, right?
This, however, is an alternate history timeline where Kim Il-sung, glorious leader of North Korea, has hired me as the director of the North Korean Space Agency and tasked me with one simple goal.
Oh, no.
Land a man on the moon before the Americans. Otherwise, he'll execute me.
Yeah.
Which
Makes
is bad. Probably. So that's our goal. Land on the moon within 18 years. That sounds like plenty of time. And in normal KSP, you can land on the moon in about 3 days. So what makes RP1 so much harder? Well, firstly, the physical challenges. Kerbin is this big, the Earth is 10 times bigger. This means we need about 4 times the delta V just to get into orbit.
Right, because of gravitational pull, right? Because when you're trying to actually exit the atmosphere, like number of things that I am far too underread on to really comment about. And his original series did talk about a lot of this as well, which was honestly really cool. You should definitely go watch it, especially if you haven't. Yeah, no, that actually throws a wrench in things.
So I built a rocket and began flying it to orbit, but this engine is unreliable, so it fails and we crash into the ocean. If you burn an engine for longer than it's rated for, it fails, and we crash into the ocean. There are about 8 million different fuels. In base KSP, it's almost impossible for a plane to rip its wings off. In RP1, it is not. Most rocket engines in real life can't throttle. I accidentally put the throttle to 0, and now the engine can't be lit again, and we crash into the ocean. If I want to control this rocket, it needs avionics. But avionics are heavy, so instead we can just spin it. But whoopsie daisy, we spun it wrong, and now we've struck Japan. The first stage of this rocket had finished burning, but now I can't light the second stage because the fuel inside the tanks is floating, and there's a chance that the engine ingests an air bubble and explodes. So you guessed it, we crash into the ocean.
Oh no!
There are a lot of different engines to choose from, but actually there are way more because each engine has several different configurations.
Okay.
The mod Principia changes how KSP calculates orbits to use an N-body simulation. So now orbital maneuvers look like this.
Bro, these are people who are way smarter than me and way more qualified than me to really talk about this. Like that's not a derogatory thing. This is fascinating to me, and I love seeing things like this. But it's kind of like when I watch like a physics explained video and I'm just like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I wouldn't know how to solve that math problem, but that makes a lot of sense how we got to the Planck temperature. No, I can agree with this.
If I leave a Kerbal in the radiation belt for too long, he fucking dies from radiation poisoning. Science experiments now take time to run. Some take minutes, some hours, and some entire months.
No.
So that sounds pretty difficult, but it gets worse. The management challenges. Absolutely everything in this mod takes time. Researching technology takes time, and the time it takes depends on how many researchers we've hired. The base KSP tech tree is small and pathetic and easy. RP1's tech tree looks like this, and is much more gated. Oh, you want to research 1956 to 1957 orbital rocket engines? Sorry, fucko, first you need to research this material science node. Oh, so you want to make a rocket with that new tech? Sorry, fucko, first you need to build a launch complex. Launch complex? I think it's pretty simple. I'm going to fucking kill you. A launch complex is a set of buildings that can construct, fuel, and launch our rocket, and it takes 3 months to build. Then we need to staff our launch complex by hiring engineers, then we can build our rocket. But not so fast, fucko, we don't have the tools to make this rocket. Our engineers can still build it, but it's going to take 3 times as long and cost 3 times as much. So
I feel like this scratches that Factorio itch, right? Like that hardcore Factorio player who likes to min-max things, right? And that's not a derogatory by any means. Like I feel like that definitely scratches an itch there. This meets a need.
we buy the tools to make the parts for the rocket, build the rocket, that takes another 3 months, then roll it onto the pad, that takes 2 weeks, and finally, we can't launch because we haven't trained our astronaut on the equipment. So we train him up, strap him in, launch, and it fucking fell into the ocean again. Lucky for us, we have this button, Simulate. That allows us to quickly test out our rockets to make sure they'll actually work before we launch them into the abyss.
Okay.
You can tell it's a simulation because at the top of the screen it says
Simulation.
Simulation. So if we destroy our rockets or kill our Kerbals in a horrific manner, it's fine. Money is no longer about how much money we have in the bank, but more about cash flow. To make money, we accept programs, like this one for developing X-planes. It's going to give us this much funding over this much time, and to complete the program we need to complete these contracts. Contracts like reach the speed of sound with an aircraft, or fly an aircraft at 22 kilometers. We also get money by having reputation. More rep equals more money up to a cap. All of this adds up to the most hardcore space management simulator ever created. And I am gonna beat it. Every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday over the next several months, apart from Christmas, I'll be streaming at these times. God, I hate Australian time zones. As of writing this, my save is 2 years old in 1953, and all we've done is launch some small-sounding rockets, some large-sounding rockets, accidentally strike Japan a couple of times, and we've almost killed our only astronaut, Patrick Jenkins, several times. The nugget. Will this be a video? Yes. Will we reach the moon by July 20, 1969? I fucking hope so. Will Father Kim Il-sung be proud? I want him to be proud. Please be proud of me, Kim. Will we maintain a reputable, respectable space program? Or will the immense weight of responsibility prove too much to bear for my feeble mind?
I love that he has John Cena up in the corner. Lovely. Wonderful.
And the mod list is in the description.
I love that he also adds the mod list too. Like, I think that that's a really good touch, right? Like, this is why I like mods. This is why I think that community projects on official games, right? Like, and I get it. I get the reasons why, especially because mods aren't necessarily illegal in certain part of the world. So you run into a conflict of interest there. Obviously it's, using somebody else's copyrighted IP and kind of doing what you can on it, right? But like this clearly showcases a need, right? And it's so cool to see projects like this. I think this was actually really good as a marketing bit too, because like it's the usual. And I don't mean it in a bad way, right? It's the usual martincitopants editing style, but it's done in a way where it's like, man, it's so cool, and you're so hyped about it. And it was such a minimalistic intro and gave you just enough of what you needed to really be able to kind of sink that information in, right? I mean, it's just grats, Kip. You've that's what a summary is, right? You're absolutely correct. I don't know. I actually really like this. I thought this was great. I thought this was a good way to market that as well, right? Because this is going to take him hours and hours and hours of stream, hours and hours and hours of editing. And, I thought this is a good way to do this. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully, everyone enjoys his streams. Definitely go check out MartinCitoPants and MartincitopantsLIVE, especially if you have not. I can't wait to see what he ends up doing on this. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.